This is the Healthy Business Podcast, the show for ambitious business owners who want to grow and scale in a healthy way. I'm Sarah Cook, and I'll be sharing with you tips, inspiration, and proven methods from leading business experts, entrepreneurs, and health and wellness professionals to help you grow your business with more income and having more impact, but in a way that works for you. Because when you have clarity and strategy, you can achieve the results you want. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Healthy Business Podcast. Today, I have a wonderful guest with me. Sheridan Ruth is joining me to have a chat about predominantly burnout and resilience and how that shows up for us as business owners, but also how we can find that confidence, and I suppose build that awareness to help us through our journeys, but also to have the success that we want to. So Sheridan, thank you so much for joining me.
Sarah, hi everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see where we go and where we end up.
Yeah, I know. I love these kind of fluid conversations because they're not structured at all, and it's just really interesting, I think, to see where we go and see what comes up. So you are an empowerment coach and somatic practitioner, and looking at that kind of burnout and resilience and how that shows up for people. Now, one of the things that I do with my guests is start with a question, and I'd love to hear your response on this. So, what does a healthy business mean to you?
I think a healthy business to me means a business that doesn't override the signals that you get from your body. So I think of it as like a body-based business. What does my body need in my life right now? And how can my business actually support that instead of overriding it? Because I think that a lot of us, especially if we come from a background where we have worked for other people before, or like we're coming from corporate, or we're coming from anywhere at all, really. And even in a lot of the initial and in a lot of the culture for entrepreneurship and small business and big business is this idea that it's like, what does the business need? What's going to be profitable? How do we go and make that occur? When sometimes that can override what you need and what your body needs and what your lifestyle needs at the time. So a healthy business to me would be one that would say, okay, what is my body telling me, like, about my business? What feels good for me? What does my body need in my lifestyle right now? And how can my business actually support all of those things instead of being the thing that we put at the top and say everything else can be negotiated as long as we get there.
I love that. It so speaks to everything that I kind of resonate with. And I think I see so many people just pushing so hard for business results and really wanting to achieve that. It's one of the reasons they set up their business. But sometimes that comes at the expense of their health, or they kind of forget about the health, or nothing is done about it to promote that health unless there's something that triggers that response. And when it's almost having that awareness and recognizing that actually, if we're healthy as people, we're more productive, we're more positive. Actually, that's going to have a bigger impact on your business results rather than looking at it the other way and kind of forcing us being drained out and kind of leading to that world of burnout. And both of us have experienced that world of burnout, and it's not a great place to be, is it?
It's not. And it's so hard, especially when you're the person who is kind of responsible for everything and you're just consistently tired and resentful and there's no creativity, there's no spark, there's no inspiration. And it's so detrimental because you're getting to this, you achieve burnout because you wanted something to be successful, or let's generalize and say that that's generally what happens. But because you push so hard to get to that success, you become something that honestly, I think that people prefer to work with people who are not burnt out.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that. It's that impact on other people. I think I see that with clients, that they want to work with people who inspire them, not who are feeling drained themselves. They want to see that solution that, it is about inspiring people, I think, isn't it? Knowing that person can help you, but also support you in that journey. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your journey of burnout and where that's led to you kind of doing the things that you're doing now.
Yeah. So I think that, I used to work in commercial real estate brokering. I worked for an American company, and that is I worked on both the East Coast of the United States and the West Coast. So my hours were from about like 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. because I had to be available for bankers. And that was me. I was like, you know what, we're going to get the clients, we're going to sign the deals. I'm going to like climb the ladder, I'm going to do all the things. And for me, I was like, I can do it. I can do it. I've got this. I can do it. And I kept pushing and I kept being available all the time. And then I had more people ask for things. And oh my God, look at Sheridan. She's doing all the things. And my boss would ask something and my colleague would ask something. And I really struggled, number one, saying no. Number two, asking for more money that would actually end up supporting me so that I could do things that would help me, like get a cleaner and like take off some of the other baggage that I was carrying, right? I was doing all of the things. And a lot of it came out of pride. I can do this. It was like I wanted to prove myself. And then it got so bad that I couldn't do anything. I had to kind of step back. I took maybe a month off of work. In true like overachieving style, that was when I did my yoga teacher training. I was like, I'll take a month off. I'll just do an intensive yoga teacher training. Like, not a big deal. But when I did that, everything changed. Like everything in my entire life changed. I'd been practicing yoga for a decade, but once I did that teacher training, I understood, oh, this is what the body is telling me. This is what I actually need. This is what I want. And when I went back to work, it was one of those moments where I did have the courage and the confidence to say, okay, guys, this is what I need in order to keep working. And unfortunately at the time, but I think fortunately in the long term, the company wasn't willing to meet me there, the bankers. It wasn't going to work. What I needed didn't match up with what they needed. So that was when I started actually just working as a yoga teacher, which turned into yoga psychology, yoga for mental health, as an entrepreneur. And I worked a lot. And I had clients all day, every day. And I ended in the same place, exhausted, tired, sick. I lost my voice. I work in the online space. My voice is extremely important. I can't teach, I can't support, and I can't coach or educate without my voice. I lost my voice and I was like, oh, here we are again. How did we get here if I'm supposed to know all these things? And, fortunately at that point I did know more things. So it was easier for me to kind of catch it, nip it in the bud and just say, okay, we're not going to have that happen again. This is why it's happened. And I think from there, it's just been a consistent practice of prioritizing and becoming aware of the things and the tendencies. Everyone has their own unique tendencies that can lead to burnout. So it's like becoming aware of that, really feeling that like in your body, like what are the signals that I get from my body and from my environment when those things could begin to happen? And what do I need to do or confront to put in place the practices, systems, boundaries that I need to avoid burnout?
Such a similar story to mine. So similar, of being in that corporate space, hitting burnout from just working all the hours, doing all the things, and then retraining in the holistic space, and then heading into burnout because you want to get results and you're suddenly doing all those things, and you lose that idea of having more flexibility, more freedom when you're working for yourself. If you're such a giver, which so many people are, especially women, then we find ourselves overgiving if we don't have those boundaries in place, if we don't have those support systems, those support kind of tools in place. And I know so many people that are in or have been in a really similar situation where corporate has led to them wanting to make changes. Some of them are going back into corporate, but a lot of them kind of, if they're setting up their own business, one of the reasons they left that corporate space was to have that flexibility. And then suddenly we find ourselves back in this kind of road to burnout again and thinking, okay, you're right. How on earth did we get there?
Yeah. It's like 9 p.m. and you're closing your laptop and you're like, wait, wasn't the whole point to not be doing this?
Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly when I kind of realized that I can shift my business model. I can do things in different ways. But also I think that, as your own business owner, you are in control of your day. You can say yes and you can say no to things. You can do things in the right way. that works for you, it doesn't necessarily mean working less hours. It's working smarter and recognizing what your body needs, I think, as well. It isn't about, only working 2 hours a day, because most of us run our own business because we love what we're doing, and working hard is part of that. And I get that. But two things you mentioned there, boundaries and support, are just so important, aren't they?
Yeah, boundaries are such a thing that I think that we're all continuously learning how to set them, when to set them, what they could look like, and getting creative. Like, what is a boundary? And it's not just boundaries with other people, it's boundaries within yourself. Like, what
Mm,
boundaries do you have for your own habits, your own behaviors, even your own like thought processes? Like, where do you say, if my thoughts go here, I'm going to redirect and do what's necessary to not go down that space because I know that's not supportive to me,
yeah.
right? Or what boundaries do you have around like your phone and when you're at work?
It's just so important. I think you're right. It's I think when people hear that idea of boundaries, if they're sort of new to it, even if they know they want to sort of have them in place, the idea of it feels quite selfish, and people I know
Yeah.
feel quite guilty about putting up boundaries, especially if they're givers. And especially if you're trying to get results as well in your business. But actually it's that flip psychology of going, actually, if you have these boundaries, you're going to be able to perform in the best possible way. You don't need to be working till 9 o'clock every night if you're not giving yourself that space during the day. Working till 9, that's okay. But if you haven't got the stuff in between, you can't do those 12-hour days every single day. That's not conducive for a healthy lifestyle or a healthy
Yeah.
business.
And it's such a gift to be able to give to, like, when you give someone a boundary, it's such a gift, especially as someone who runs a business or is an entrepreneur, because it's like, okay, if I can say, this is what I'm comfortable with, this is what works for me, it gives the other person permission to be like, huh, well, actually, this is what's comfortable for me. This is what works for me. Where can I meet you in a way that's going to feel so good for us both? And we're going to show up with energy and intention. And like, there's not going to be any stickiness between because one of us is over giving or one of us is like slightly a little bit guilty or slightly a little bit resentful or slightly a little bit like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah. It's such a big thing, isn't it? And I think, you don't need to feel guilty. You don't even have to justify, why you've got those boundaries. It's just like, this is when I'm available, what works for you. You don't need to say, oh, I'm not doing whatever time, because you can just
Yeah.
stop at that point and say, these are my hours, which ones work for you. And I think that's kind of a big shift. But I love the idea of having boundaries with yourself as well, knowing, and I think it comes down to that awareness, knowing what can work for you, whether it's I don't know, whether it's movement, whether it's nutrition, whatever it is, it's those choices that you're giving yourself kind of a parameter, I guess, to make those decisions.
Yeah. And I like what you said as well about um it's not, I don't know if you said this, but this is kind of what I was receiving. It's not necessarily in like what the specific thing is or what hours you work, or it's not reducing the hours. It's how are you doing it? Because when you say, okay, one of my boundaries might be that, for example, one of my boundaries is that between the hours of 2 and 6, I work, but I do it in a way that feels a little bit more nourishing. So that might mean like I get like blankets and I get all like blanket up and I have a really nice cup of tea, or I do something that's a little bit more soft, or like that's when I put my podcast on and do a little bit more of like the admin work and things like
Mhm.
that. But having that boundary of like, okay, we've hit 2 p.m. We can continue work and continue being productive and continue doing the things that are important. But it's not a time where I'm going to book, 4 hours of client calls back to back, because I know that that's not going to be supportive for me
Yeah.
or for them, because my nervous system, most people's nervous systems between the hours of 2 and 6 tend to get a little bit more erratic and want to be like all around here and like feel a
Mm.
little bit distracted. So that's when it's like, okay, how can I continue to do the things that I want and also do things that are nourishing for my nervous system?
That's so interesting, isn't it? And I think, I'm very similar, but I think it goes back to that awareness about you as to when your energy levels are at the right level for you to do the bits and pieces of work that need to happen. If you've got really high energy and you're really creative first thing in the morning, that shouldn't be the time that you're doing all your admin stuff. You know, you
Yeah.
should be using that. That's, you know, that's when you become more productive.
Yeah.
Similarly, you know, kind of the last thing you do at the end of your working day, that can be the admin stuff if your energy is a bit lower, because you don't need the headspace in quite the same way. You know, one of my boundaries, and I've shared this a few times, is that I don't do any client work before 10:30 in the morning, because it enables me to set my day up in the best possible way. And that can be anything. You know, it could be some exercise, it could be you know, meeting a friend for a coffee or some self-development or whatever it is. But that's my space, because what I was realizing was that I was getting to the end of the day and I wasn't doing anything for me, because I'd been so busy doing everything for everybody else that I was getting frustrated, I was getting resentful, and then I wasn't showing up in my best possible way. So I think it's, you know, we're all different. We all need different things. We've all got different energy levels at different times of day. But recognizing that and planning your day to help your nervous system, to support that nervous system, not only does it help everybody involved, you, your clients, but actually it gives you the confidence, I think, as well, that you know that you're going to be performing at your best possible level.
Yeah, and it gives you like the structure that you need to know that you're going to do things that are hard. So some of us, we all have those tasks and those things that we don't really want to do in our business that
Yeah.
feel a little bit uncomfortable, or we procrastinate on them, or we get really perfectionist about them. And we just like they're a little bit outside of our comfort zone. If I know that for me, my energy, I'm one of those people, like my energy is the highest in the morning before about 11. And that's when I can really do those difficult tasks, because that's when I have the energy to be like, okay, we got this, focus, let's do it. Like press publish. You've like, you can do this. And some other people are going to need to have a little bit more momentum build up in the day to build their confidence. Like, okay, let's do it. But just knowing that you have the space in your schedule, and like literally as well, space, like making space, don't
Yeah.
overbook yourself too much, to trust yourself enough to get the harder things done. That's going to end up building your confidence, which helps you set more boundaries, which helps you trust yourself more. And it's just this big movement of like, it's just stacking on each one. If I can trust myself to set boundaries, I can also trust myself to get through harder parts of business. I can trust myself to deal with the difficulty that maybe my next launch might fail, or I might have a difficult conversation with a customer. But I can also trust myself that I've set aside time for myself tomorrow morning to deal with, or to manage, or to get remotivated, or to manage all of the emotions that come up because I had that difficult conversation. It's like, how can I build more trust into my body, into my nervous system, into my day? Because that's what actually makes us confident enough to go out and share the work that we're so passionate about, that we know is going to help so many other people.
Mm, definitely. And I think you're right. You picked up on there around, you know, if we're doing a launch or we're doing something that requires us to be more present or to push a bit harder, recognizing that you also need that time afterwards to give yourself that space to come back down again. And I found this when I first started in my business, and running courses and things, that I'd launch and then I'd go straight into the next thing and move on, and I was exhausted. And now I'm always like, right, okay, I know that I'm going to need more, and I potentially plan in more time to bring that space back down again than I maybe need. But it gives me that creativity. It gives yourself so much more than just that rest, because you can then perform, you can then deliver that course or whatever it is that you're doing in the best possible way, rather than just on this constant hamster wheel. um Understanding your nervous system, I think, is something that, especially over the last 2 years with the pandemic, where our boundaries were forced to change, we were forced to do things in a slightly different way. um and our nervous system was kind of pushed even higher. And I think there's so many people that are kind of coming out of that. But in fact, we're almost doing more, because we feel like we need to go and see those friends. We need to go and, take our kids to do more activities. So we're almost doing more, rather than going, okay, the world has taken us into a place where we've not necessarily had to do more. A lot of us have kind of done less, but we've done it in a different way that has pushed our nervous system. that we're then kind of coming through and going, okay, what I want us to do even more than that, I want to support more people. But I think so many of us, what actually we need to do is give ourselves more space and pull back from that. I'd love your thoughts around this.
I think that's such a good point. And I'm having kind of two thoughts around it. Number one is that your nervous system is always just looking to be safe. That it just needs to be safe. It needs to know that you're safe. And we have all collectively developed an understanding or even a belief or kind of just taken on the information that we are actually not as safe as we perceived that we were. We were not expecting something like this to happen. We were like, so now our nervous system is like, whoa, what do you mean? This is possible? Like I could just go out, I could pick up my groceries and get really, really sick and then give it to my entire family. That's a possibility. I didn't know that was a possibility. And so naturally, when your mind starts to receive that information, your body is going to respond and be like, okay, we need to fix, we need to plan, we need to do, we need to da, 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 da. Or it's going to be like, oh, I can't do this. This is too much. And it's going to go into like what I call the blue zone, which is that helpless feeling like, oh, I can't do this. This is too much. It feels heavy. I can't. And I think a lot of us, particularly people who have continued with business, have maybe tended towards more of the doing, planning, organizing, protecting, particularly if we have family members. Like, what do I need to do to protect the people around me? Because I've perceived that we're unsafe. So what do I need to do to make sure that we are going to be safe? And when we have stayed in that, because also, you know, if we all own our own business and we all are responsible for our own income, we're dealing with the uncertainty that often comes with that, which uncertainty, the nervous system says, uncertainty is insecurity, uncertainty is unsafe. I could die. If I don't know what's going to happen, I could die. And so we have all of these things compounding. And I think a natural reaction very many times is to just go into like, okay, how can I fix this? When actually what we need is, okay, how can I make my body understand and know that I am safe, that it will be okay, that I've got this? And sometimes it's just little things like the tiniest thing, making sure you're hydrated all the time instead of, you know, working for 2 hours and like, I have to drink water. Or moving to like towards more calming practices, yoga, meditation, body yantras, things like that, and like building that into your day, doing yoga nidra. It's also when you're working, can you like just, there's something that in somatic experiencing we call orienting, which is the simple act of looking around your space and orienting yourself. So looking around your space and orienting yourself, particularly lifting your chin so that your head tips back and you create a crease at your neck, because that's telling you, okay, I've looked around the space. I did not see any danger. Okay, we're safe. And it can be just building those things into your day so that your nervous system, like, okay, cool, we're safe. Now I can act from a place of what do I want to create, what I want to do, what I want to provide, how do I want to serve, who do I want to help, instead of I've got to get this stuff done.
Yeah, so important. And I love those really, really simple tips that you can easily integrate into your day, you know, making sure that you have enough water, even just the act of kind of looking around and giving yourself, your body, those kind of signals, those physical signals that everything is okay. They're so simple that you can, you know, you can just put them into your day, whether it's setting a reminder, whatever it is that you need to do, just to give your nervous system that support that it can do. And I think so much of that is around, you know, resilience or helping us build resilience, helping us have that kind of inner confidence that actually everything's okay, everything's safe, I can still keep taking these actions, knowing that my body is going to be okay. And that, that has a huge impact on our well-being, emotional well-being, as well as physical well-being. And then that has an impact on, our happiness and the joy that we're getting from things. And I think, again, it almost goes back to the idea of this sort of feeling selfish if we've got boundaries, or feeling guilty if we have them. It's okay to have joy. It's okay. In fact, it's brilliant to have joy. It's okay to feel happiness when the world is not experiencing that, because that's how we keep our inner health. And I see so many people, have had so many conversations recently about this. There's a lot going on in the world. There's always going to be a lot going on in the world. We need to protect ourselves. We need to keep ourselves safe, our emotional self safe. And that doesn't mean that you have to feel guilty about having joy or feeling happiness. And we can have those little micro moments that help us through that.
Yeah, I always think of, if you're the type of person who's even having those thoughts, you're probably also the type of person who really wants to do good in the world. Whether that be you just want to raise really wonderful children, or you want to be the CEO of like a mega multi-millionaire company. You want to create good things in the world. In order for you to create good things in the world, you need to be coming from a place of groundedness, of stability, because that's what helps you access love and patience and compassion and joy, all of the things that you need to create good things in the world.
Yeah.
So it's when you're feeling guilty, you're not of service to anyone else.
Yeah.
When you're burnt out, you're not of service to anyone else. You might feel and think and act and try to be, but really, truly, you're not. And you are helping 100%, but you're not doing it to your full potential, which means that they're missing out as well.
It is. It's that impact that you can create, the ripple effect that you can create if you're looking after yourself in the best possible way. Totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
Um, totally resonate with it. And I think these levels, it is an evolving journey, isn't it? It's not something that we kind of put in place and go, okay, I've done that, I'm fine. It's this constant evolving. And I think, especially if you're growing your business and you're scaling it, every time you're taking that to the next level, there's going to be different things that come up for us. Whether it is the challenges that we need the resilience for. But one of the other things that I kind of wanted to delve into a little bit was this idea of trauma coming up, because we've talked a little bit about trauma with what's happened over the last couple of years, but trauma can come up in all sorts of different ways, can't it? Or even trauma that we might not perceive as big things, but our nervous system perceives it to be a big thing and kind of protects us, holds us safe, doesn't want us to up level or upscale our business.
Yeah, yeah. I think that just to preface that conversation, it's important to define what trauma is. Trauma is anything that your nervous system cannot assimilate in the moment. So it's traumatic to step out onto the road and have a car pass you and be like, oh, that was too much for my nervous system. Like, it was too close. And then later on that night, you're like, oh my God, wow, that was kind of scary. Because that car passed and that was kind of scary. So that can be a traumatic event. It can be a breakup. It can be something that we don't remember, but it's anything that your nervous system cannot process in the moment. And it's helpful to remember as well that sometimes what makes an event traumatic isn't the actual event. It's the fact that you're alone in processing that event. So if anyone was caught with a lot of big emotions at any time in their life, particularly over the last couple of years, or when they were a child, and they didn't feel like they had the support system to process that, it's traumatic.
Mm.
If you have something happen at work or in your business and you don't feel like people really get it, like let's say, okay, coming back to the launch idea, let's say you had a big idea, it was wonderful, like, yeah, we're going to do this, and it was very disappointing and you didn't get what you wanted, but you felt like nobody really understood, or that you had to keep going, and you just kept going because you didn't want to deal with those emotions that what you had created didn't go how you wanted to plan. And that is also traumatic, and that's going to impact you through procrastination, people pleasing, codependency with your clients, perfectionism, not being able to share, not being able to go and share your message, having all of these ideas like stored in your Google Docs and your notes, but those things never actually making to a blog post or a podcast episode or whatever it is, like feeling that block of like, I want to say something, I want to share this, but I can't. Trauma around money comes up.
So many different
So
things,
many
aren't there?
things.
So many things. And I think what I loved what you said there is that, trauma isn't necessarily the things that we traditionally associate being traumatic. It can be those everyday moments that our nervous system just kind of goes, oh, that hit me. And it doesn't necessarily hit you straight away. It can hit you, hours later, weeks later. But I see so many people bottle it all up. And I think it's, that's the hardest thing, because it's, you don't necessarily need to kind of blurt it all out, share it all over social media. That's not what it's about, but it's having that support network, that support system, whether it is a coach, whether it's, a best friend, or even just a, group of business owners who get what you're doing and why you're doing it and how. Because as much as we love our friends and family, they aren't necessarily the person that you want to talk to about those things, or they might not necessarily understand the, especially if it is that example of, doing a launch that didn't work in the way that you want to. Having that group, having that supportive people is so important. What would you recommend, I suppose, kind of going into that sort of support systems, really? What would you recommend, or how do people start creating these support systems to, I suppose, have that awareness or recognize when something might be off kilter or not quite in alignment, to then make some changes or add in that sort of support that they might need?
Yeah. I think that at the end of the day, everything starts with being really aware of what your body is telling you. So before we can make any other decisions, before we can decide, who do we want to support us? Do we want to invest in support? Do we want to create like a group? Do we want this person or do we want the other person? We need to begin to become very attuned and aware to the messages that our body is giving us, and act on them. And you can call this like your intuition, you can call this your gut feeling, you can call it like that knowing, whatever it is that feels appropriate for you to call it. It's going to be so different for everyone, but we all know that feeling of like just kind of like knowing something in your body and like, yeah, this is a good idea. Like this is a good idea. And we all know that feeling of knowing in your body, like, oh, that is not a good idea. And oftentimes our mind will come in and be like, yeah, it is. But it makes sense. Or maybe you're an employee and you've had in your body, like, I just know this is not going to work. And your boss is like, it is, this is the design, this is the path that we are going on. You're staying and you're doing it, and you don't have much of a choice. So you override it. So we've been overriding those messages for our entire life since we were children. We've been taught to override them. We've been taught to sit still. We've been taught to sit for periods of time, to be in places. We've been taught to eat on schedules that maybe we don't necessarily want to eat on. We've been taught to do exercise in certain ways. We've been conditioned and told so many things, like what diet, what exercise, what business, what career path, what, like all of these things since we were a child. So the first step is to be like, okay, forget all those rules, forget all the logic, forget all of the stuff. What is my body telling me? And you probably, if you're really just beginning, the answer is very often, I don't know. And that's okay too. Like you can feel,
Yeah.
I don't, maybe what's present is, I don't know. And maybe there's also something else present, like, oh, when I'm with this person and they ask me these specific questions, I get really energized and that feels really good. Versus when I'm delivering this service or I'm creating this product or even I'm like shipping out this product, there's like a little bit of a down in my chest. It doesn't feel right. If we can get and we can just feel into that and get very attuned at that. And I am a meditation teacher. I really recommend meditation to help you, and just meditation on body to help you do that. If we can do that, then it doesn't matter what anyone on a podcast tells you about how to get support. You will have an idea and you will know. And you will just go and do that without second guessing yourself, without worrying about the how to, without worrying about what if. You'll just be like, okay, that's the next step. Let's go do that. And we'll figure it out as we go.
I love that. And I think the word that's kind of coming through to me is this idea of judgment, that we judge ourselves so much, but we also worry about what other people are going to think if we start doing things in certain ways. But even as you said, like the type of person, you know, different people have different effects on us. Some will drain your energy, others will give you energy, and you'll feel energized by having conversations with them. And I think, again, recognizing what you need, but spending more time with people who you do have energy with. And, you know, as a business owner, thinking about that from an ideal client perspective, you want to work with people that you love working with, that you know they're going to get results. You don't want to have those sessions or, you know, create those products where you're just feeling drained all the time, because that's not going to help you perform at your best. You're not going to get the results that you want or that they want. And then you go back into this kind of negative spiral.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting. I want to sort of delve into the sort of the judgment side of things, because, you know, your sort of backstory is really interesting from way before corporate, you know, even as a kind of a young
Okay.
child,
Yeah.
losing your hair at 7, that's, you know, a really young age for, I guess, judgment to kind of come through for you, where as a little, you know, little child, right, that people are making comments, people are sharing opinions. How was that? How did you deal with that? How did that sort of affect you and kind of make you, I suppose, more resilient, more aware as you've, you know, grown older and kind of where you're at today?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I always get asked this question, and I've always been seen as such a strong person and such a resilient person because I lost my hair when I was 7 years old, and I pushed through, and you're so confident. And to be completely honest, like, it was just a facade for so long.
Yeah.
I didn't have choice.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure many people who have ever experienced illness, chronic illness, or any autoimmune disease, you don't have a choice. You're strong because you're strong.
You have to, right?
Yeah. And so it was actually in admitting that, no, that's really affected me. It's really hard, and I appear strong, but I'm not. That allowed me, and I think that's where the resilience is, and that's
Yeah.
allowed me the confidence, not the confidence that, you know, somebody sees you and says, like, I'm bald, so they go, oh, you're so confident. What they're saying is you're courageous to do something that other people might think is different or could lead you to be judged or
Yeah.
alienated. That's the truth of it. They're not really saying you're so full of resilience and self-trust. They're saying, aren't you courageous? And I don't want to
Yeah.
call you courageous. They're making a judgment, and it's not a bad thing. It is true. It's hard sometimes to stand out or to do things that, and a lot of the time it's not that you, there are judgments that we have that are kind of, I would like to say, kind of like intrusive, where we like invent them. For example, I might be like, oh, Sarah's going to judge me if I um, say that I'm not available after 3 p.m. She's going to think I'm lazy. That's probably an invented judgment that I have.
Yeah.
It's probably not
Totally
true.
invented, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's not real, and especially like, oh, everyone's gonna think I'm a really awful person if I'm happy while something bad is going on. Probably
Yeah.
not true for the most
Yeah.
part. There are going to be exceptions. That happens. People judge. But there are also judgments that happen that are really real, such as maybe you want to say something or do something that's different, or you want to appear different, and people are uncomfortable with different and unknown.
Mm.
And so they project onto you all of their insecurities about different and unknown. And it's easier for them to judge you or stare at you or talk about you than it is for them to confront the fact that maybe part of them kind of wants to be like you. Maybe, especially with hair loss, like, what's happened is that a lot of people will project their fears around losing their hair onto me and want to fix it. Have you tried this? Have you ever done yoga? Like, I've heard it's really good. Because they're rightfully scared that
Yeah.
they might lose their hair. Yeah, of course. Like, if it can happen to me, what if it could happen to your child? Like, so there are stares and there are judgments and all of that. And I think that it's taught me how to discern between those, but it really taught me in the beginning, it really taught me there was something wrong with me.
Mm. And
That
as a
was
really
that
young
was the
young
lesson.
child, that's hard, right? Like this, you know,
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Well, I've got two little children, 8 and 6, and we have had conversations about what is normal. And it's such a, I love having it because I love seeing things through their eyes. Um, and the reality is that everything is normal, right? Like there isn't, we're so
Yeah.
conditioned by society as to what everything should look like, how we should act, even as you're saying, what time of day we should eat, types of things we should eat. Um, and it's,
It,
it's so interesting as to what is normal, right?
it's so interesting as well. And I can probably, you can probably imagine this, but I was 7 when I found my first bald patch. It was at the hairdresser's, and the hairdresser kind of found it. And I felt her cold hands on my skull. And I was like, that's not how it normally feels when they cut my
Yeah.
hair. And everyone runs over and is like looking at my bald patch. And my first thought was like, okay, whatever. I loved my hair. I had beautiful, beautiful long brown hair, and I had a widow's peak, and it was like pride. Everyone always complimented me on it. But I was also like, whatever, like I'm so losing my hair. Like, okay, like that's kind of frustrating, but like not a big deal right now. It's
Yeah.
fine. But it was a big deal, and it came out of love that my family and my friends wanted to get treatment and to fix it and to hide it. That came out of love. But what it taught me was that my initial reaction was incorrect,
Mm.
and that there was something wrong with me. And so, like, the process of unlearning that and developing the strength to confront all of those fears, because mine is with hair loss, but we all have a thing that happened.
Yeah. Where we've all been on journeys, we've all had different experiences, we've all had judgments thrown at us, opinions, whatever it is. I think there's always
Yeah.
something, there's always a comment or an action that we have stuck in our mind with whatever it is, right?
Yeah, we all have like that one thing, that breakup, or the thing that your dad said when you were 13 years old. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's just right there. And so we all have that. And so it's just a massive opportunity to learn to confront the emotions. Because a lot of the time I think coming back to burnout, I think that we actually end up in burnout because we don't want to confront the emotions that we're having if we stop doing things.
Yeah.
If I don't move into my next launch after my first launch, I would have to confront my emotions about the first launch. So I would, what, I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah. I think you're so right. If we suppress things, like they're going to come out in some way or shape or form or physical, whether it's emotional. And if we keep suppressing everything, then that becomes really hard. That does have that knock-on effect on our health. And you're right, that is one of the big causes of burnout, because we're just suppressing things. We kind of take that as our new normal, going back to what normal means. We
Yeah.
create our normal. And whether that's through judgments, opinions, or actions, we create our own normal, and we can uncreate that. You can create a new normal, I think, can't you? And the one that does support you, that does give you resilience, that avoids burnout, that avoids the overwhelm, but you can still have success with all of that. And I think
Yeah.
that's the message I think that we're both of us kind of trying to get across here, is that you can have that. You don't have to be, working all the hours, pushing yourself to burn out, worried about what everyone else is thinking. And you can still get results off the back of that. In fact, you're more likely to, because you've got that confidence, you've got that inner, not necessarily inner steel, but you've just got this kind of confidence, that health that promotes all of those things. You're then at your optimal levels, which enables you to move forward within your business. So many amazing things we've covered today. I love it. I feel like we could just chat all day on this. I'd love to kind of, I suppose, wrap this up in the sense of, we have talked about lots of different things, but burnout is one of those key things that we see time and time again, that people don't necessarily realize that they're heading towards burnout, but they know they want to be confident. They know they want that resilience. Share with me a few tips on, how people can support themselves, whether it's through awareness or whether it's through that recognition, and kind of, moving through, striving for those results, but doing it in a way that works for them.
Yeah. I think tip number one is to have regular check-ins with yourself. And that doesn't need to be a ritual thing where you light a candle and get your journal out and create, but having times in the day where you go, okay, like what am I experiencing right now? So I think of it for a check-in for me, I always think of it in There are actually 4 questions that I would ask. Everyone write them down. Number 1 is, what physical sensations do I have? So what is the physical state of my body? Am I tired? Am I feeling energized? And just like by beginning to just notice this information, you get to understand, oh, if my day was like this and I feel energized, oh, that's information. That's how interesting. I could do something with that information. So like, what physical sensations am I having? Do I have cramps? Do I have tension in my neck? Just notice it, non-judgment, don't need to do anything, don't need to fix it. Just, what physical sensations am I having? Number 2, what thoughts am I having? What thoughts are here? And it's important to make the differentiation between you being your thoughts and you being the person that witnessed your thoughts. So like, okay, what thoughts am I having? Not judging them. I'm thinking about dinner. I'm thinking about my partner. I'm thinking about Susie, whose call this morning didn't go how I wanted it to go. I'm thinking about this. What thoughts am I having? And like, what's the quality of those thoughts? Are they anxious? Are they nervous? Like, are they excited? Are they happy? Like, what thoughts? Just doing this check-in. And then what emotions? And a lot of us don't have emotional literacy because we were never taught emotions. We were never taught what the words of emotions are. So if you just Google emotions wheel, go onto Google, look it up. And there's a wonderful many resources on what emotions we can feel. And maybe just look at that wheel and name 1, 2, maybe 3 emotions that you might be feeling. I'm feeling disappointed, excited, and apprehensive. That's my emotional state right now. And maybe you look into that, you feel them straight away. Maybe it's very obvious, and maybe it takes time. Totally fine, not good or bad. And then my other question is, what am I avoiding right now?
What a great question.
Especially for business, because there's always something that we are avoiding. I'm avoiding the discomfort of setting that boundary. I'm avoiding this feeling of guilt. I'm avoiding writing the post that I know is going to lead to more clients. I'm avoiding my email inbox because it's overflown. I'm avoiding making dinner because I hate making dinner. Like, what am I avoiding? And when you have that information, you can decide what you want to do with it. You can decide if you go and do the thing or if you change the thing. If you go and process the emotions, however you want to process them, you decide. But if you can check in with those things and hopefully start making some decisions that will nourish them. So if you notice, like, I'm feeling a bit tired, okay, go rest. Start listening. Go and do that.
Yeah.
You're not going to have true confidence and true resilience until you start listening, because confidence is not, look at me, oh my God, I'm so wonderful, I'm doing different things. Confidence is your subconscious trust that you will do what is best for you to get yourself through difficult situations. So if I can't get myself through, it's 4 p.m., I'm tired, I want to go and lay down for 8 minutes, then I'm not actually going to feel confident and trusting in my ability to do the bigger, harder things in life.
Yeah, and you're right. It is starting with those small things, those little habits that then stack up into bigger things that give you that confidence, that ability to say, actually, yes, this is what I need. This is what I'm going to do, because I know that that's going to have a positive impact on whatever it is that you're trying to do. Clients mostly, business mostly, family mostly, but most importantly, yourself. And I think that's where we're kind of coming to. It's that inner belief, that inner confidence, recognizing what you need so that you can achieve the things that you want to, life and business, but doing it in a way that works for you. I have loved our chat. So many things align with me and how I view things, and really what I'm trying to promote on the Healthy Business podcast, of building that business in a way that works for you, that doesn't compromise your health, but still gives you those results that you want to. Sheridan, thank you so much for joining me. Where can people find you if they want to learn a bit more about you?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. You can find me well, you can also find my email, but I'm going to give you my website. That's easier. It's just sheridanruth.com. So SHERIDANRUTH.com. And on Instagram, I spend a lot of time on Instagram. It's _Sheridan Ruth _. Find me and say hello. I'd love to know everyone else who is looking to create healthy business, because it is a revolution. It is a movement. It is exciting, and it is going to do really good things in the world.
Amazing. Go and find Sheridan, go and connect with her. She's a truly wonderful human. And yeah, I've loved our chat. Thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
so
me.
much.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
thank you.
listening to us today. I hope you've enjoyed it. We would love some feedback. Feel free to rate and review. Leave us a comment over on Instagram, either on Sheridan's Instagram or my own, Sarah Cook Coaching. And I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Healthy Business Podcast. To get your free checklist with 1-minute hacks to accelerate your business and find out more about our community, head to my website, sarahcookmarketing.com/healthy business.